Hey, Life on Chain Group. This is Garrett Biss, joining you with another wonderful guest to discuss about some things in the recovery industry, some technology, some trends, some things that are being addressed in the recovery industry and the recovery community, some different ideas for treatment, some different philosophies, and just some general changes that are taking place that it's good to be in the know about. So. My good friend Alex, he has some great things to share with us just about some of the work that he's done, a little bit of his journey, and give us some idea on things that'll be available now, or things that are available now, and things that will be available in the future. So thanks for checking this out. You can drop your comments now. If you're catching a replay, please drop your comments or send me a message. If you got any questions, any comments, any feedback, I'd love to hear it. And if you need to get connected with Alex, then we'll make sure that you can do that. I put a link to his LinkedIn profile in the description. So you're more than welcome to reach out to him with any questions or follow-up or feedback that you have. But Alex, thank you very much for joining us. How's your day going?
Yeah, Garrett, it's awesome. It's great to be with you. It's great to connect as we have the first time. I think I got to meet you was part of the presentation, and I just knew that of a lot of people that I met that there was something special about you and what you're doing, and just looking forward to growing our relationship and helping others.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat today. Yeah, it was one of those conversations that you have with somebody. You're like, man, I wish I was recording this, because there's so many good things, so many great things that came up during that conversation. So it's been a couple of weeks now, but I appreciate this opportunity to share some of what we were discussing with a wider audience. It's really an important message, important awareness to get out there. So thanks for taking this opportunity. If you could just share a little bit about your background, the quick story. What do you do? How did you get into it? What inspired you to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a simple, I guess, vantage point, I would be a community business development for JourneyPure. So JourneyPure is based out of Tennessee with facilities in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida. So we don't have something directly in North Carolina, at least at this point. I think there's always a market, and we'll see. And as well as maybe a little bit of what we're going to talk about is the technology pieces that may be able to that we may be able to utilize without actually having physical space in the state, or more states than what we currently have. So part of my journey getting here, I've got experience coming out of a military school, and I was in the Air Force for a time. So we share a little bit of that military background.
Were you in the Air Force or were you in the military? I thought you were in the military.
Hey, I always say this is the point of contention. I say, hey, some of us were smart enough to get into the Air Force.
No, I appreciate it. When I was in Okinawa, we'd always go to the Air Force chow halls because they had the best accommodations. And I'll tell you what, being a pilot in the Marine Corps, I've certainly got a lot of respect and passion for aviation in general, but specifically the C-17s. I mean, what an incredible aircraft. And sometimes, I don't know if I should admit this publicly, but sometimes I'd sit there in my plane and look over at the C-17. Like, man, what an incredible thing. So,
yeah. I feel like one of my funny stories is, and all my time was in Los Angeles, where that's one of the pieces of all the space assets. So where the rockets, where some of that's going on, all the satellite development, those sorts of things. But I've got a brother-in-law that is in the Marine Corps, and I can remember when he was I think his appendix burst, like he was out on a MEU, out on the ship, and so they had to fly him in, and I think they flew him to Qatar, to the Air Force base, and it was like. He was like, man, this was at least a 4-star resort. And I think it was over like Christmas time, so not a lot of people were around, and he just had the place to himself. And he was like, I think he was, how do I get into the blue, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah. So out of the Air Force, living in Vegas, out of the Air Force, and then where?
Out of the Air Force. And then my wife and I, we just kind of came to North Carolina. Really, it was. So then she's got that brother, a sister that's flew helicopters in the Marine Corps, and a brother flying the Super Hornet. One was in Virginia Beach. One was here at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. So Raleigh was just kind of this, hey, up and coming, growing place where we could come get new careers and be close to them in the military as well. Yeah. So we got here, we started working. I worked at Enterprise. I cleaned a lot of cars, and understand the humility of having a shirt and tie on in North Carolina on a day like today, being out at the airport. And leading a great team. So that was really cool. And I got into the medical world, and just fast forward up into this time where we've all known I'm from West Virginia. That drives a lot of my passion. It's a state that's just been, totally bombarded by this epidemic of opioids. Places that were once proud communities and home to coal miners and that industry. And as some of that has gone away, what has come in, we could Google, right, and see the stories about things that have happened. We've got Netflix documentaries. So in the meantime, a buddy that I had worked with, he got into this space. And from there, as we were having discussions, and I'm talking like, man, I'd go home and, the main street in our town is just people with backpacks now, and the drugs and the most of the signs, we said, the signs used to say help wanted, and now they say foster parents needed. It's like, it's almost an industry, where people are doing it as like they foster kids, that's what they do now. So all these things, we had some personal friends where kids were tied into this somehow. We knew some things through church and different stuff like that. So I was going to my friend and saying, hey, man, I just don't understand this. And so from many aspects, how do we make an impact? What are things we could do? How do you get people, the help that they need? And he simply then came to me out of the blue and said, hey, I think I have a great way for you to make an impact. Why don't you join the team? There's a lot of great things that JourneyPure is doing. And, we want to develop the North Carolina market. We want to be able to provide our service more to the military, which we're in a great state for that. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at now. So really enjoying it.
They're operating on two fronts, really. So with the residential and the inpatient treatment programs that you have, and then also, which we'll talk about in a moment, is the technology side of things. So talk first about JourneyPure from the treatment side of things, from more traditional, what people would think of as some of the programs that you're on. How many programs, how many total beds, how many total patients, residents, clients, and what about JourneyPure makes them a little bit unique?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, a lot of times we all agree on that, when you go in for 30 days, that most programs do a pretty good job, right? Get someone into detox, get them into the program, do your therapy sessions, teach skills, do those things. And most do it pretty well. And as you alluded to, the technology piece starts to differentiate. If somebody's with us for 30 days, on day 31, what does life look like? If you come back to North Carolina, what's going on? Our buzzwords are being connected to accountability, right? That's how we're doing that via the app. But yeah, from a simple standpoint of the facilities in Tennessee is our flagship, JourneyPure at the River. It's 125 acres. It reminds you, if you were thought about, hey, I'm going to go to a country farm with some horses on it. It's a kind of rustic. A river goes through it. It's just a beautiful place. So we've got that one, Knoxville. Jump into the facility in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and then we technically have two in Florida right now, Panama City Beach and Melbourne. And down in Florida is where we our specific programs to the military. So a little more than, if a treatment program advertises that they're in network with TRICARE, we've gone the next step to actually military veterans run the program, do all the programming. One of our guys, we'll share that video too. One of the counselors down there is an ex-MARSOC guy. And when you see him, you understand that he was a MARSOC guy. And basically he took up the mantle of, he had lived a life, he had done things that military guys are called to do. And, when he got out, it was like, hey, there's nothing really, nobody understands, right? Being able to talk to that picture of a military person and what he had done. So he took the mantle up upon himself and went back to school, got educated and designed that. So that's a little bit different. And they're constantly working on that piece to make it very military specific, handling PTSD, those really, things.
Oh yeah, certainly. And some of the unique things there. So you think with JourneyPure, one thing that really helps set them apart is the next step, like the step down piece, and that day 31 forward. And you've got some unique things that you're leveraging technology to help provide that. And this is one area that I've always said that needs to be addressed. And a lot of the work that I do with people as a recovery coach and with some of the programs that I offer for recovery, that's really what I'm trying to address. So that's really where the need is. I mean, you can survive very well in a 30, 60, 90-day program, learn some really good coping skills, learn how to identify your triggers, learn how to navigate that, cure up some of the things that led you down that path. But once you go from a contained environment to nothing, there's so many people that, once the reality strikes, everything that they learn kind of goes out the window. And there is a real need to help people step down to that, and not just step down to being able to survive out beyond, in the real world, out beyond the treatment environment, but really continue that progress and continue that growth and move much further beyond that. Leverage everything every innate strength that they have. Leverage everything that they picked up even in the dark times of life. Everything that they picked up, and leverage that to really live into potential for for happiness, for joy, for fulfillment. Because that's one of the saddest things that I see, and I think this is what we talked about before, is people can find. There's a lot of programs, a lot of support to help people survive in recovery. But if that's what you're counting as a win, then you're setting the bar way too low. I mean, there's so much more potential. There's so much more that people can tap into, so much more that they can experience in life. And that's where I focus. And that's what really intrigued me about the work that you're doing, because of the technology that you've involved to help provide that, which is also unique, that a short-term residential program is forecasting and thinking about and continuing to provide that care long after the residents leave. So we can talk a little bit about that, what it is that you do, what this technology is, and how it works, and some of the feedback that you've gotten.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, let's see, I don't know if that'll show up really well where we at.
Not
so
so
you can kind
much.
of get a little, you get a little gist of that screen. And so that's a piece of the app. You can notice how everything's red. So if I actually went in today and did my recovery journal, Garrett, it's simply a way. Well, let's see if it'll let me.
So you said connected to accountability. So it's providing that accountability.
Connected to accountability, exactly. So now you see where a piece of it went green, So just to kind of step through it, when you come to JourneyPure, early on, you're going to actually meet your recovery coach. So, and I think, and you'll understand that piece well. So the human being, right, that is attached to then going on your smartphone, downloading the JourneyPure app. So what that person, you are able to do is communicate HIPAA compliant. There's a secure messaging feature there, so that you are connected to accountability all the time. So put that in the sense of now COVID-19, maybe you haven't been able to go to your group, maybe you haven't been as connected to family, all those sorts of things. Well, now we know for a fact that you are connected to a certified recovery coach via the app. So what it's able to do, a list of tasks, it can be, hey, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I call Garrett at noon, talk to him, go to some of my meetings. Maybe it's an IOP, write in my recovery journal. All those things are tracked. All your progress is tracked. It's like a stoplight system. Red, you haven't done it. Yellow, green.
For each person, so it's customized to each person as they're coming up with their support team or their coach before they transition out. Like, these are the things that you're going to do. This is your recovery plan, and this is just helping reinforce that, leveraging something that's in everybody's hand all the time.
Correct. And a built-in reward system. So then, as you are doing the things that you're supposed to do, they turn green. You get points. Points then turn into real dollars via Amazon gift cards, Starbucks. So there's that built-in system. You can also have any loved one, whether it be a family member, friend, whomever, can have insight into your progress via the app as well. They don't see the secure messaging. There's a piece that's just secure between you and the coach. So some of those, that they can't
be there to cheer you on and say, like, hey, congrats that you got all your things done today, or hey, I saw you didn't get one thing done. What's going on?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. So that in a simple form, it's got some pieces where, we think that the core principles of health, sleep, nutrition, exercise. It's got things under each of those categories. So there's some things, and I believe that I will forecast going into the future, there's going to be more things come on the app that are, think about workout plan, things like that. So you can definitely expand.
Yeah, and as you're talking about, that's what I'm wondering. Like, does it integrate with like a Fitbit or something to keep, activity, tracking sleep, and that sort of things, or is that maybe something on the horizon?
I think that will be something in the future. I know it's something that I presented, right? Because I love the fitness side, and I know what it does for me, for my mental health, and kind of regulates my day and just all those different things. So I'm passionate about that side for sure. The other thing that's attached through that, I just made myself a couple notes. So get them straight for you. So from 1 to 3 months, you're also getting a call from your recovery coach once a week. Then it steps down months 4 through 6, and you get a call biweekly. So all those things are kind of, run you through that program. So to what you and I said, where, hey, day 30, day 31, you leave. Now you've got a plan to get you out to a year. And where it all kind of sums up, and they do an exit survey. I should mention through that goes with, there's 19 questions to let us know, real feedback, how we did, how are the facilities, how is the programming, how are your therapists, how's your recovery coach doing, all those types of things. And where it really kind of gets powerful is to say that for those that are in the app in an inpatient, because we have outpatient settings as well, but from an inpatient setting, 70% success rate at the year mark of maintaining their recovery. So that's the power. It becomes the back end of the app while you're going through the things that are in the app, the secure messaging, when you're doing those phone calls once a week, then twice a week, then, as you step down through that, you're getting all this data, right? Hey, has the person been to
great data, not just for the individual, but also for the coach? I mean, it seems like a great tool just to, as you're working with different clients, kind of checking in on them, and maybe not having to have the phone contact, but still you can see what they're up to and know what they're up to.
Yeah. And let's say, that's a great picture of it, Garrett. And let's say, hey, it's been 2 weeks and we haven't been able to make contact. Now, can we reach out to a loved one? Can we reach out? We know that this patient came through Garrett. Now we got to call Garrett, right? Hey, have you seen Alex? Do you know what's going on? Hey, the phone number's not working now, right? There's no response via text or email. It just gives us the power to maintain. And now you're maintaining thousands of people, right? By the way, so it was an expense to JourneyPure to get this figured out and to build it and to maintain the coaches and those sorts of things. But then I can tell you some of the power of it is then you go present all this data to the insurance companies, right? Yeah. And now you can really say, hey, here's what the people are telling us, right? Here's what the numbers are. Have they used? What was the time frame? Like say, have they been to the emergency room? Do they have gainful employment? Just, there's a plethora of data now.
Right. No, and I really love like how much higher a level of care you can provide as that coach or as that advocate or as that loved one without being intrusive, without feeling like you have to constantly live in somebody's, like you can just look at the data, look at how it's presented, see some things that might either pose some concern. So then, to check in or see that things are kind of going well. That's just kind of, it's a great, a great resource. And I can see the value, not just for the individual that's using it, but for everybody else in their support team.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, Garrett, it's almost, I like getting your feedback, because like I say, I think it's something that you understand very well. If you're, as you start to help more and more people and keeping that all organized and I think it's just going to, and let's be honest, who's not on their cell phone, right? Everybody's utilizing it. I think 95, even at the year mark, 95% of our patients that come through the system are still active on the app. So all those things, and I've heard things like, hey, there's a lot of there are different apps out there, and maybe it's run by a third party. So I think some of the power is having built it, having it. It's an internal thing. It's our baby in essence, and then but you're downloading it and you're doing all that step by step with your coach that you meet while you're at JourneyPure. So it really, you know,
and that familiarity piece as you
Yeah.
leave and as you go back to the community you're from, like you still have that familiar thing, you still have that familiar connection, that little security blanket, maybe if you become accustomed to using it and while you're still at JourneyPure. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So, so what do you see about the future? We talked a little bit. Well, first of all, do you license it to other people, or do you allow other people to use it, or is it strictly a JourneyPure thing?
We do, you know, and that I think that's one of the, you know, it's one of those things you think about technology, right? Should it just kind of be free and out there on the marketplace? And I don't know if that'll ever, you know, what's going to come of that. But currently, you can white label it. There are some big national behavioral health brands that already utilize it. So yeah, so anybody really,
people that are checking this out, you know, they might be connected with, or they're either working in the treatment side of things, they have a loved one, and you know, maybe they want to get connected with a treatment provider that provides this. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing about Life Unchained is people that are all across the spectrum, individuals in recovery, loved ones, people in the industry that are trying to make a difference and trying to support the best we can. I certainly see, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the direction that we're heading, and this is going to become more and more commonplace, you know, moving forward, especially as we rebound from this recent pandemic, this current pandemic, and so many things are shifting. So many things are going to go online. People are more comfortable online, more comfortable getting that virtual support. So you know, it cuts both ways. It's going to exacerbate the people that we work with. It's going to make the issues so much worse for so many people as people deal with the changes in their life and the stressors and everything that comes with this pandemic. But fortunately, I also think it's going to drive people to value and to leverage tools and resources like online coaching, online therapy, and digital things or technology-based apps such as the one you're talking about. So at least we'll have a tool as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, like I say, the ability to do new things with it. You know, I've done things during this last 3 months that I never, you know, really saw myself doing. Like, hey, you know, my wife and I are in front of the screen and we're doing a workout together, all bands, and you know, we're watching different things. So that kind of stuff excites me. Like, hey, that's, you know, those are things that. Hey, how do we get some of this tied into the app? And so you can go right there, right? You're comfortable, you're familiar with it. That's you're connected to your coach. Hey, can we just, you know, can we develop some workouts? Can we be doing some recipes and things like that, and even get maybe a little more interactive. So I think I think all those things are possible as we go into the future.
Yeah. Very cool. I did share a link to your website in the description, but I'll throw it up here quickly so people can see it. So when they go to it, they'll recognize it. So this is the JourneyPure website. This is, you know, mostly focused on the different programs that they offer on the different locations, but there's also some information on there about the apps and coaching for that lifelong support and the additional resources. So if you want to find out more about the organization, you can check that out.
And if I can just say very quickly, Garrett, that two things to note. So we're an in-network provider. What that means is that if you have private insurance, for example, if you have North Carolina Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can absolutely come to JourneyPure and utilize those benefits. And what that means is that you're going to get a great value. You're going to get all that JourneyPure has to offer at let's say an affordable rate. I think a lot of people just think treatment, they think 30 days, they think $25,000. That is not the case. Obviously, there are different plans, and that's something we can do very fast and we're very good at. And since we hold, you know, as you were scrolling through, it showed a list of some of the insurance companies, but, you know, TRICARE, VA, TriWest, all your majors, that's one thing to note. So that don't think that it's going to become this huge financial burden. And if you're interested in the money part, you did an interview with Michael Lewis. So there are people that can even, kind of help you get that part, correct. Yeah. But I just like to mention that we're in network, so you can absolutely, attain that. And then we're also a dual diagnosis facility. So we're going to not just deal with the substance use disorder part, but we're also going to dig into the mental health part as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for sharing this and taking this opportunity. I think it's a really important thing just to help, spread the awareness about it, help people understand what some of the fundamental changes are that are taking place in the industry, and get excited about some of the changes and know that there's different levels of support and new ideas and new innovations always coming to the scene in the industry. So my last question for you, I know you're not a clinician yourself. You're not, do you do recovery coaching yourself or no? I think you're on the business development side of things mainly, right?
I am. That's something, I did ask that question. You'll laugh, Garrett, when I first heard about the app. I mean, how do you become one of these coaches? So I know that it's, our guys are all state certified. Typically they are out of one of the states that we're in, is kind of how that has worked. So that's not something I've done yet, but I think that, we're wide open on possibilities.
Yeah. So in that context, my last question for you, because even though you don't work with people one-on-one, because people know where you work and they know that you work in the industry, you must have people come up to you at times and ask for advice or ask for direction. What advice would you have? What would you tell somebody that that either they or their loved one is struggling and they're at that point where they want to seek help? What advice do you have for them? What general guidance and what message of hope do you share with them to help them in that position?
Yeah, absolutely. If they get to me, we're having that conversation, then it's like, hey, you've already taken a step, right? So we're positive right off the bat. Depending on who it is, if I'm talking directly to the patient or it's a family and a loved one, it's always, hey, you got to know that Alex is a human being, right? And I understand struggle, things that are going on in life. There's a lot more. I think everybody agrees on that there's a lot more going on in the world now, and 24/7 news cycles and all these different things that are just playing into it. So really just try to build a relationship, right? Human being to human being. Hey, I'm Alex, and I'm here to help, right? We can step through this thing. Not only do we have a great treatment center, but we'll really work on and find out, what's going on, what really makes sense, what options do we have. And I'm currently working through a few of these, right, where someone has reached out, a loved one has reached out, and typically it's a lot of questions, right? And I alluded to some of that. Some of the first questions are, right, hey, what's the money look like? What's going to happen? Hey, how do we make the travel happen now? Since you do typically have to drive to one of our facilities or fly. We've flown several people, over the last couple months, out of Wilmington, out of Raleigh, out of Charlotte. Really just try to portray that, hey, you're already in the right direction, and we're really here just to kind of keep the ship sailing in the right direction. I'm super proud of anybody that can say, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to take that. Or maybe not, right? Maybe it is just the feeler and getting the information, but that's kind of it. I like that first call to be human being to human being. Let's kind of figure out some of the things that are going on, exactly. And that'll kind of help us to shape the direction in which we're going to continue.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate that. And if that is you, if you're watching this video or watching the replay, if that is you, if you are, kind of ready to take that step, you or a loved one, and then you can connect with Alex. I put his LinkedIn bio or his LinkedIn profile in the comments section or in the description. You click on that. And also, if you're watching this, you're watching the replay, you have any questions, you have any feedback, anything that you want to share with either me or Alex, you can drop it in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. And I would love for you to share this video and share the work of A Life Unchained with your friends, with your network, with your family members, anybody that you think would benefit from it. You can do it just by inviting them to this A Life Unchained group, in our private group. You can find that at alifeunchained.com. So I appreciate you taking the time. Alex, thank you very much for joining us. And for those that are watching, thanks very much for taking some time to listen to and be a part of this conversation about some just important things that are going on in this industry that affects everybody's life. Everybody knows somebody who's either struggled with it or a family member of somebody who's struggled. So this is something that touches all of us. So thank you for taking the time to be a part of this conversation. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Garrett.